Azi totul parcă s-a schimbat. Pretinde te torbi, fiindcă te-am pierdut. Pretinde te torbi, fiindcă te-am pierdut.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Bookmarked. I am your hostess, Sherry's Joy. I am an avid reader. I love reading and I love talking about the books that I've read. If you enjoy the same, this channel is for you. Please stay tuned and check out all my videos today, or spread the love if you know anybody that could benefit or be interested in these videos. Today, I'm talking about The Caretaker by Louise Mayberry, who is an independent author, and I was fortunate enough to speak with her, and I read the book. So this book is about 306 pages, and it took me a couple of days to read it, maybe like 3 days to read it. I will say that I was engaged in the book. I was totally in there, and I was in the pages, and there are some parts of the book where I was taken away from the pages and I was reading with my eyes, but then you know what, with the flip of the page or press of the button for the next page, I was right back in there. So, and it didn't happen often, it was a couple of times. So what is this book about? Funny you should ask. This is a historical fiction, and we follow Charlie Lovejoy and his sister Hetty. We start off on a canal ship. Charlie is a worker on a canal ship, and they are cargoing wheat. The book takes place in the 1840s in rural New York, you could say. When we first start the book, we are reading a book, and you don't really realize that until you're taken out of the book that you're reading. So how cool is that? Like the author wrote a book inside of a book, right? So that's really cool. And it made for a good, like, we're in there from page one. So we're reading the book. Charlie is reading the history of America, and he's in the 1700s on Paul Revere's Midnight Run. And the way that is written is so beautiful that you're in there and you can see what's happening with Paul Revere. And I mean, those who know the story, and it's not too hard to envision. However, you don't know the story from his perspective, right? So Miss Mayberry, she's writing that story from Paul Revere's perspective and in Charlie's perspective of reading it, which I thought was really artistic. So we're in this book and we're reading it, and you're so focused on it, and then boom, something happens and you're like completely taken out, and you can feel that. Like I felt that I was being taken out of a book because something's going on, right? And then there's all this commotion and you're like, what is happening, right? And then we learn that Charlie's on that cargo ship, and, something has happened, and he gets into like this argument and everything with the captain, and some things that are happening, like the captain is like spitting, and you're just like, whoa, that's so gross, right? And then this person jumps from one canal ship to the other, and we learn that it's Hetty, and that we find out that is Charlie's sister, and they actually jump ship into the canal. And when I tell you that, when I love how things are written so that I can like really, if I can feel all of those tingles and emotions and everything like that, I know that this book is going to be great. So they jump into the canal, and while they're in the canal, she talks about the water, right? It's like green, and it's thicker than actual water. So you're like sludging through it, and it's like it's the canal. So it's like sewer water and waste, and you can, in the smell, like their characters talking about the smell, and I was like, gross, right? So like, okay, we need to keep turning the pages. This is disgusting. But it was good. It was good to read things like that, it's like that emotion. So that's when we find out that Hetty is Charlie's sister, and she actually they're from Maine, and she, left Maine to try to find Charlie to tell him what's going on with the family. And then she's like, I'm going to stay with you. Charlie's like, no, you're not going to stay with me. So Charlie is actually trying to find a boarding school for Hetty where she can go so that Charlie can continue working. He needs to find work. He can't provide. So he goes to visit his friend, and his friend's wife tells him about this school. His name is Pax, and they are a Black family. And they tell him about this school that is a interracial, a mixed races school, a school for Black and white girls. And it is in rural New York, and how to get there and things like that. And they might be able to take Hetty in so Charlie can work. So he goes to the school, and he meets the teacher there, whose name is Rose. And he's talking to her, and she's like, oh yeah, we have plenty of openings. And they did like a advertisement in the paper, but they haven't really gotten any students, because there's so much controversy. Even though we are in New York, it is the 1840s. We are in pre-Civil War. And so they're like, Rose is like, yeah, we've gotten so many, I don't know, like kickback and just pauses, and just so many hiccups regarding the school, that we didn't think we were going to get any more students. So she's like very excited to have Hetty on board. However, Charlie can't pay for her tuition up front. And so she's like, well, I don't think that we can, do that. And he's like, don't even worry about it. And so he leaves. And she's like, no, stay. But he leaves, and defeated. He feels defeated, and they're like in the little sleigh or whatever like that. It's wintertime, and they come across this chaos is happening in another carriage or horse. There's like an accident, if you could say, but it was so. Bleh. So there's an accident, and Charlie happens to be there to save this person from the accident. And then what it actually really is it's the head mistress of the school, whose horse was sabotaged because the townspeople are angry at this school, and they want it to go away. So they're doing everything that they can to sabotage. So Charlie actually saves her and helps her. And she, needless to say, like, hey, I was on my way I was just leaving your school, and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, maybe, why don't you come back and we can talk or whatever. So she actually offers him the position of a caretaker, and in exchange, he works there, and not necessarily in exchange, but if he's the caretaker for the winter, she will accommodate Hetty in her tuition, and Charlie will be able to pay the tuition through his wages. So he's like hesitant. He doesn't want any handouts, but then he's like, yeah, okay. So it's not a handout. He's actually going to be working, and perfect, right? He has shelter, he has work, he's making money, and Hetty gets to go to school. So they go, and then, it comes to find out there's like so many things happening. Like there's this, they spoiled the well, like they poisoned their well, the townspeople. They put horse manure in the well so that the water is gross, and they can't have water, so a new well has to be dug. There's other things, there's like the fire happens, and they try to burn down the school and everything like that. It's horrible. It's so terrible. So in between, there's a love story building, and that is between Charlie and Rose. Now, again, I keep saying, ever since I read the Outlander series, everything I have noticed, so many books after that have led back to Scotland. I'm telling you, I said it. I gotta get to Scotland. This is a sign. So Rose is from Scotland, and she is lovely. She's beautiful, perfect for Charlie. And he's so taken by her, and just mesmerized by her. And he's like 6'4", I believe. He's 6 feet something. And he's so tall. And Rose is she's enamored by him, and but she can't date because she's a teacher and she has to set a good example for her students. So, but Charlie, he is like insisting on trying to court her. So he's bringing her things, flowers and books and all these things. And he loves to read, as we discovered at the beginning of the book. He loves to read. Rose loves to read. She's a teacher. So we have that budding, and then we have everything else happening in between. And, and then we have the end of the story, which I was so sad that it ended because I was in there with it and it ended. And I was like, what's the phrase? One more chapter, one more chapter. But I will say that it did end on a lovely, beautiful note. I did do some spoilers. I was trying not to do all the spoilers. However, there is a part, so this is a spoiler. There is a part in the book that really, again, got me in there. And that is, there's an almost love scene, right? So Rose and Charlie, they're like, I don't know, it's almost like teenagers where they're like, they kiss. And Rose is like, well, it might be okay if we like make out, but make out wasn't the word, I'm just saying. So they're like into it and they're kissing, they're like basically making out. And there's like this bang, or not a bang, but there's like a knock, 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 tip, tip, tip on the door or whatever. And they open the door and it's this woman, this Black woman. And she's like, it's freezing outside. It's like snowy and cold and freezing. And she is just like soaked, and she basically falls into Charlie's arms, into the home. And come to find out, she is I guess can I say the word slave? She's a slave from the South, and she is here with her family, or excuse me, I'm sorry. She is here with her slave master, he's visiting family in New York. And she found out through that housemaid that there is a place that is safe, and that she can go to, and she kind of tells her how to get there because she heard that they help people cross over into Canada. Okay, that's not what this book is about. It's just something that happened within, we're in that time. So it's not necessarily an underground railroad building or home, but there are ways to help people, as there were, in actuality. And so, we learn about a little bit. Her name is Eliza. We learn a little bit about her, and then they come looking for her. And the scene, or I keep saying scene, but the chapter where they're looking, and it's just like I am on the edge of my seat, and my heart is pounding, and I'm basically doing one of those type of things. And it's like, oh my gosh, well, where is she? Where is she? Oh my God, like, don't find her. Please don't find her. Please don't find her. And you're in there, and I'm like rooting for everybody. I mean, not everybody, but I am like rooting for Hetty, and Charlie actually is not there, but I'm rooting for these women who are trying to hide Eliza. And it was just intense. It was so intense. And I will say that my heart rate went up. I'm like, oh my gosh, my beats per minute is like 120. And then then it calms down at the end. And so Hetty actually saved the day. Beautiful work. Because we know in real life, like, not everything ended that way. Right. So yeah. So that was an intense moment. So overall, I do rate this book a 5. And that is because, one, I love historical fiction. And two, Scotland, come on now. But most importantly, the way that the book was written, it was understandable. I was in the pages. I was engaged. Like I said, there were some parts where I was taken out, but I was brought right back in. It was an easy read. The characters I wasn't confused with characters. There was some times where we were using last names, and with the last name this and the last name that, and then first name, last name, first name. I had to write down, well, I take notes anyway, but I had to keep referring back to my notes because, okay, who is this person? who is, but once I got the hang of that and I understood who was who, I was fine. And there's a reason why they're using last names and last names and first names. I mean, it's, out of respect and everything like that. So easy to follow. The descriptiveness of it is like right on point. It's not overly descriptive. It's not under descriptive. It's like right there and I can feel it. And I'm all those emotions. The storyline itself, I'm not a big romance person. However, I have my last few books I've read have some sort of like romance in there. And I'm actually, as long as it's not like a full on romance book, I am like in there, why not throw some love in there? So that was good. And it was like innocent. It was so cute. It was so sweet and innocent and just lovely. And so I really did enjoy reading this book. And what I loved most is at the very beginning, the author's notes at the beginning, Miss Mayberry, she does give like a warning of language and, basically saying like, hey, these are the times and this was said and this, and I write this story, I'm writing the story. It's just a book. It's just a story. I don't really feel this way, blah, blah, blah. Like those aren't the words, but that's basically what it is. And I thought I really appreciate it when authors do that. But honestly, I didn't see anything that was like out of pocket or anything that was like, oof, in this writing. So I appreciate that author's note. Wonderful. And then at the end, I love it when we find out like the research that the author has done. So this book it's not based on, well, I guess you could say it's like, it's not really loosely based on these things, but these things do happen, right? So there was a school and that school was that was like this. And we learned that it was in Connecticut and they tried to do everything to sabotage that school. So that actually really happened. And, there was a teacher who was from another country and she was, after bad things happened and that school got burned down, she left, you know what I mean? So like these things happen. And I love learning about the research that authors do on their books. So I do appreciate that. And this story is book 1 of book 2, and book 2, as from what I know, is not available as of yet, and I'm very excited to read book 2. This book, The Caretaker, actually just came out this September or this fall anyway, and so you should check it out. And while you're checking that out, before you do that, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my other reviews and leave me a comment. Have you read this book? How do you feel about this book? What kind of questions do you have? If you want to discuss it, let me know. Hit me up in the comments. And as I stated, check out my other reviews. I am Sherry's Joy. This is Bookmarked. I am one half of the DigiCast. You can find me right here on YouTube at BookmarkedSJ. You can find me on Instagram at BookmarkedSJ. You can find me on Blue Sky at Sherry's Joy. And you can find the DigiCast on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube as the DigiCast 1. Love the world.